Okay, so this is just the dark side of child acting right here. Enter Tylor Chase, who Tylor was known from doing the show Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide in the 2000s. He seemed to be a promising kid, but now cut to today, it's just been revealed he's actually homeless and living on the streets of Los Angeles. Looking at Tylor Chase's career really was just Ned's Declassified, where he did 33 episodes of the show, and looking at what the show paid the main cast, he was probably only paid $1,000 to $2,000 an episode with no royalties, so he made really no money off the show, and looking at his IMDb, he was only able to land small parts in shows like Everybody Hates Chris afterwards. And the Ned's Declassified cast is probably the closest cast of any kids show where the three main actors do a podcast together, and I actually met these guys at VidCon. They're extremely nice people, and I actually bought them shots, which was pretty cool. You just can't stay in touch with everybody, so in the case of Tylor Chase, because of severe bipolar issues that were revealed by his family, he is homeless, and he's actually still marking himself as an actor, saying he's a Christian actor. The public found out they did try to give this guy a GoFundMe, but it was taken down after the family asked, and with that, I'm Charles Pearl. Subscribe to learn something.
No wonder former child star Tylor Chase kept clutching his pants while wandering, as no one realized that Nickelodeon brought him 3 major life-damaging injuries. First, Chase gained attention as a child star on Nickelodeon, but becoming famous at a young age added more pressure, spending every day under the strain of performances and media scrutiny. Even worse, the sudden downfall of the industry turned him into an ordinary person, so when people recognized him, he would nervously clutch his pants. Second, who would have thought that a place making comedy for children would have animators who were registered criminals? He would force a smile in front of the camera during the day and cry in the prop closet at night. Finally, Nickelodeon treated him as a cash cow. Once the 2007 series ended, Nickelodeon immediately turned its back on him. Without resources for transitioning or even basic security, and without timely support, which has left him unable to take care of his basic needs today, he clutches his pants not just because they don't fit, but because he's holding on to the person he was before Nickelodeon destroyed him.
Like to say, call on Yahweh, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushua, Bahashim, Rakakadash, the honors of the apostles and the elders, great millstone, peace, citations, of hope, elect, Shalom. And yeah, I just wanted to pretty much discuss about this topic about how, Hollywood really just ruins, these people that have once, been in this industry, with the whole, child stars, performing at such a young age, and they're just treated like, not even like real people. They're treated like like products in the industry, because it's to the point where it depends on the contract that they had when they played a part in the entertainment, whether it be like a movie or film. And these films will usually get played by people throughout the course of, like, let's say, maybe a few years later. So it may be on some streaming platforms, or it may just be still played on by like some TV channels that that will show like some throwbacks about some old TV shows. Sometimes they do that, and sometimes you have it to where some of these celebrities, they don't get any royalties, or so they don't have like any there's no like ongoing residual income that they receive from playing a part in the show. But that all depends on their contract, like I said. So you have it to where you got parents that put their kids in these shows from such a young age, and look how they turn out. They're all bugged out, they're all messed up in the head, just like this kid, and he goes by, well, not a kid no more, he's a man. His name is Tylor Chase, and look at what he turned out to be. They said that he's all drugged up, he's all messed up in the head, and completely bugged out. And there were even some people that were, supporting him, sometimes giving him food and things of that nature. His parents even mentioned about how he's not supposed to be given any assistance, such as like financial assistance, because he'll most likely spend the money on drugs, that he needs actual medical attention, and pretty much at that point, he has to accept that he needs help. But Proverbs chapter, I'm starting with this. Proverbs chapter 23, verse 3. It says, "Be not desirous of his dainties, for they are deceitful meat. Labor not to be rich, cease from thine own wisdom." And that's the mentality that they teach you in America. So labor to be rich. You have that being pushed out, every day. You see on social media when you live in, a poor life or so, or just like maybe a regular, maybe middle class life, or whatever. You pretty much see like these influencers, you see these celebrities, you watch the TV shows, and you desire their life. You see them on social media, even though they're portraying to be rich and they act like they're rich. A lot of them are realistically broke. A lot of them owe money. They still pretty much in huge amounts of debt, and they're just flaunting and pretty much trying to flex a lifestyle that they don't have. And you have it to where they may seem like they have a decent amount of privileges, and that's really what it is. They're just hella privileged. They have extravagant, exquisite privileges, but they're not truly wealthy. And a lot of times you could already say that they don't even have a sound mind, because they always have to be doing these weird trends. They got to be doing weird shit. You got to where you got celebrities, when we talking about like big time celebrities, even in the sports industry, they got to wear dresses sometimes in public. They got to be part of these humiliation rituals or so, whether it be in photos or videos. You got it to where they just got to keep doing things, to keep their riches and attain their wealth. Some of them even have to go as far as sacrificing their family members or their close friends, just to climb up the ladder in the Hollywood industry, just to get famous and just to attain and keep their fame, or to pretty much get more famous. And that fame is short-lived, and it's going to tell you that in when I go down the verses. It says, verse 5, "Wilt thou set thine eyes upon that which is not? For riches certainly make themselves wings, they fly away as an eagle toward heaven." Right. So riches is going to eventually fly away from you. And how like sometimes where they show you in a cartoon where a character dies or whatever, when they exaggerate it or so, and his spirit leave his body and he has the wings to start flying up in the air and ascending to the skies. Yeah, that's exactly how riches fly away from you at some point. And pretty much you have it to where like people will just do anything possible just to get that small moment of fame, that small chance that they have to attain that fame. They would try to go as far as getting it as much as possible, not knowing that it's short-lived. Because you can see like how you got celebrities like what you call it, Kyle Massey. At one point he he pretty much got charged with some shit. I think it was trying to talk to a minor or something like that. They put his ass on the radar, and he's pretty much not as famous as he once was. Same thing like Orlando Brown, and these were like Disney stars, and you best believe there was a lot of Disney actors that pretty much had tragic downfalls. I'm not too sure if Macaulay Culkin was a Disney star, but he is married to Brenda Song, which was a Disney star. And yeah, Macaulay Culkin was definitely one of the child stars that had a tragic downfall too, where he started doing cocaine and he was completely effed up in the head. And that's what happens when you have your kids in the industry from that young, to the point where you have them around these predator ass people that seem to be professional. And the worst thing you could ever do is have them around your kids without direct supervision. They would pretty much watch your kids, and they would pretty much go as far as like, doing certain things to your kids that is pretty much considered disturbing. And oftentimes they get away with it so much, and can you only imagine like the stuff that they were getting away with in the early 2000s and things of that nature. Even though there's some light being shed about it, they're still not cracking down on every single person that participated in that, because they're getting some people like Zack Snyder, the guy who made I'm not sure if he was a screenwriter for That's Declassified, but I know he did screenwrite a lot of and directed a lot of Nickelodeon TV shows like Victorious and the most famous one, iCarly, and pretty much he was like one of the most famous directors and screenwriters there, and that man is pretty much he's a pedophile. And let me see, in verse 6 it says, "Eat thou not the bread of him that hath an evil eye, neither desire thou his dainty meats, for as he drinketh in his heart, so is he. Eat and drink, saith he to thee, but his heart is not with thee." Alright. So like I'm just saying, like if you consider to be an Israelite, you don't even bother trying to be as wealthy as these Edomites are, not, understanding that you're going to have to do a lot of wickedness until you, pretty much are exposed to the industry. You're going to understand what it takes to get to the top, and, you think you get up there with hard work, and it's not the case. It's really rigged. And what you have to do, you have to like do the most disturbing things possible and lose your morals to even just get a taste of that wealth. Well, a taste of the riches. The wealth is pretty much riches with strategy, so to say. So other than that, let me bring out Micah chapter 2 verse 10. It says, "Arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest, because it is polluted, it shall destroy you even with a sore destruction." Yeah, and as destruction, you could see, like, you have it to where people that had been in the entertainment industry, especially at a very young age, a lot of times on average, they grow up and they become messed up in their head. They become drug addicts, dope fiends, to the point where they look completely unrecognizable. They look like they have a lost soul, because it's like when you're violated at such a young age, such a amount of times that's pretty much disturbing to even think about. Of course you're gonna resort to drug usage, because it's like you're gonna be at the point where you want to commit suicide, because you almost can't live with seeing yourself for having to commit such a let's say heinous acts, or at least having some sort of disturbing things to happen to you, and you just had to let it happen in order to maintain your fame. And in 1 Timothy chapter 6, start at verse let me see, I'm gonna start at verse 3, so just get the whole point from the top. It says, "If any man teach otherwise and consent not to the wholesome words," in 1 Timothy chapter 6 verse 3, "If any man teach otherwise and consent not to the whole words, even the words of our Lord Yasharahla, and to the doctrine which is according to the godliness, he is proud, knowing nothing, but doting about questions and strifes of words, whereof cometh envy, strife, railings, evil surmisings, perverse disputings of men of corrupt minds, and destitute of the truth. This is the point right here, mostly. Supposing that gain is godliness, from such withdraw thyself. But godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out. And having food and raiment, let us be therewith content. Right. So, just having the basic necessities is mostly what should, keep you going. And that's what you should mostly just, stick with, instead of trying to work hard to achieve more. In a sense, like, I get it, money's a defense and all that good stuff, but, if you pretty much happen to have like a decent amount of money, decent good credit score and all that stuff, try to attain it as much as possible, but just don't try to, seek to try to be as wealthy, as you can, or whatever the case is, by doing, such things that's against your morals, things that will pretty much make you turn out to be, wicked, just to try to attempt to become wealthy, and that's pretty much the mentality a lot of Americans have, and that's what messes them up. Scriptures say that he that hasteth to be rich have an evil eye. And verse 9 says, but that's the main part right here, but they that will be rich fall into temptation and a snare, and into many foolish and hurtful lusts, which drive men into destruction and perdition. For the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. Right. And that pierce is also physical too, because they also get pretty much how do I put it, but they get backdoored, if you know what I mean. They getting clapped from the back, not meaning to sound sexually explicit, but I hate to say that, those things really happen in the industry. And not only that, they say you have to succeed in order to succeed, and pretty much that goes on too, something called the casting couch. And then, they have to do all type of other rituals and things of that nature. And then you eventually become like a lost soul in that industry, because even though you really can't sell your soul to anybody, so selling your soul to the devil, of course, is a term that's not literal, but it's like, in a sense, if you could potentially do it, for the fame and the wealth, these people would. And then it's like, you gotta ask yourself, is it really worth it? Because in the end, you're gonna see the consequences, and it's gonna hurt you even more, because it's like, when you get that wealth taken away from you, it hurts you even more than if you was just like poor and kind of growing up broke your whole life, because at least you were used to it, you know what I mean? But it's like, now you adjusted into something that wasn't going to maintain for a while, or maybe it did maintain for a while, but then it's like you got so comfortable to the point where you're so wealthy, and now you're going to go back to that poor state. Now it hurts you even more, because now you lost what made you so comfortable, you know what I mean? And you'll do anything to get those conveniences back. So yeah, it's not even worth it, and that guy is an Israelite, which he mostly seemed like an Edomite for the most part, then he would be lucky, but for the most part, it's like, if you're an Edomite, then this word ain't for you. Do whatever the hell you can to become wealthy in the world, because the Lord didn't call your ass anyway, and this is your damn kingdom. So you Edomites better pretty much do the most you can in attaining the worldly wealth. Y'all shouldn't be homeless. Y'all should be pretty much balling. Y'all should be doing the best you can to become wealthy, because this is the last chance you ever get in order you know, on this side, in order for you to be wealthy and rich, this is the last chance. Because once our kingdom is set in place for the nation Israel, all you Edomites are going to be going down. And all y'all going to be dirt poor. So yeah, with that, Holy made, let's edify, let's give all glory, praise, honor to Adonai, Yahweh, Bashem, Shalom, Laki, Yahweh, Shai, Bashem, Kakadash, double honor to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, peace, I teach, and hope for elect. Shalom.